G'day web surfers, I'm Kabbaway and this is an update on my LGBTQIA plus journey. It's been 3 years to the day since my coming out video, and since then I've been more free to explore my identity, and as a result I've made some pretty big discoveries about myself. So for this Pride Month I thought I'd give a quick rundown on my new labels. If you want me to talk more about these things, please let me know in the comments below. To start with, perhaps the biggest change has been my gender identity and pronouns. After many months of education and self-reflection, last year I realized that I'm trans, specifically a gender beyond the binary known as charagender, which is a synonym to ego gender, meaning that my sense of gender is so personal and complex, I can only describe it as being unique and exclusive to myself. I'm my own thing, and always have felt distinct from other gender groups. Since coming out to my loved ones and select medical professionals, I felt so much more liberated and truthful to myself. In fact, that was the reason why I decided to rebrand my channel, changing my icon to green and yellow, which are not only my favorite colors, but are commonly considered gender neutral. So, there you go. For pronouns, my preferred ones are Fae Femme. As a green witch who believes in and honors nature spirits, I connected with the reference to the fair folk, and as a queer, trans and potentially autistic person, I also saw the pronouns as reclamation for the word fairy often being used in anti-queer and ableist contexts. There is a bit of controversy surrounding the pronouns due to the potential for appropriation of Celtic culture, as well as invoking the wrath of the fair folk by equating oneself to them. So after some insightful discussion with Celtic pagans, I decided to change the spelling as a precaution in respect to Celts and the fair folk. Since neo-pronouns aren't widely known, or not to mention respected, I also go by they, them. I have severe ongoing trauma from gender roles based on my birth sex being forced onto me from a young age. So I just wanted to add that I'd really appreciate it if people could avoid using she, her pronouns or feminine titles for me. I'm not a woman, and I don't want to be perceived or referred to as a woman or like one in any way. Thank you so much for respecting that. In terms of sexuality, that's also evolved over the last few years. Realizing my transness and once again educating and reflecting upon myself, I came to discover that rather than being gay, I'm actually omnisexual and omniromantic, meaning that I can experience attraction to all genders but with preferences. In my case, gender expression is a key factor, which by the way doesn't always correlate with gender identity, because of course there's no one way to be any gender. In a generalized sense, you could say that more feminine and or androgynous traits are what I prefer. Not to say that those types of traits inherently are exclusive to any gender, and that's also not to say that I couldn't be attracted to a masculine presenting person, since there's more to a person than their gender identity or expression. I simply like certain traits better, and that's completely valid. In addition to this, I'm also demisexual and demiromantic, which means I require an emotional bond or connection with someone before I develop an attraction towards them. I've been aware of this for even longer than I've known that I'm not straight, but I didn't really mention that in my previous video. The idea of being attracted to someone you hardly know always baffled me. People told me I'd grow into it, but to this day I'm physically incapable of experiencing that sort of attraction towards strangers or acquaintances. So I'm pretty certain demisexuality is just an inherent part of me. I'm not broken, I just enjoy more emotionally intimate relationships. And once again, that is perfectly valid. Lastly, I've also fully realized and embraced being polyamorous, meaning that I am capable of feeling romantic attraction towards more than one person at a time. At first, this part of myself felt at odds with my demisexuality, since it felt like, well, if I'm attracted to more than one person at a time, doesn't that undermine the supposed rarity of my attraction? But then I realized neither of the concepts contradict the other. They simply provide a more detailed, nuanced picture of my identity as a whole. And just like I can have platonic attraction towards multiple people without invalidating any of my individual friendships, the same logic applies to my romantic and sexual attractions. It's not greedy, it's not immoral, assuming everyone involved is consenting and that they're all adults, of course. And with lots of healthy, open communication, polyamory can be as successful and beneficial as a monogamous one. Some of these aspects of my gender and sexuality journey haven't come easy for me to accept. I had internalized biphobia because I spent so long justifying being gay that having to acknowledge that I like more than one type of person really conflicted with that sort of justification. But I've really come to embrace that since being in a space where I was more free to explore that and realize that there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And the same for polyamory too. Thinking that I was like this morally superior, virtuous person because I really hung on to like toxically projecting stuff based on my demisexuality, that just like, oh yeah, there's only one person, and if you have more than one, then shame on you. So that took a lot of self-reflection to be like, no, being polyamorous is perfectly valid. And not only is it valid, but it applies to you, so. But yeah, I hope that was informative. And again, if you want me to make another video digging further into any of these terms or my experiences, please let me know. In the meantime, have a good day, stay safe, and I'll catch you all later. Bye!